Welcome to the Empowered Catholic Podcast with Karen and Curtis Herbert, where we combine the best of theology, science, and coaching to inspire your empowerment. It's our mission to help you release the inner obstacles that are holding you back from embracing true Christian freedom, so the power of the Holy Spirit can manifest in you. So if you believe that God has more for you, if you want to believe that God has more for you, listen on, my friend.
Hello and welcome to the Empowered Catholic Podcast. I'm Curtis, and it's great to be here with you this week. We've been talking about models that we like to use in our coaching, and one of the relevant concepts has been the idea that, hey, we're taking in so much information all the time that we necessarily can focus only on a very small portion of it. And as we do that, we necessarily and naturally and automatically delete or distort or generalize that information. And it's coloring our perception of what's real, what's happening, and what's going on. So today, we're going to represent a previous episode 74, Thought Traps. And these are kind of these silly brain tricks. And this is really fun information because as you listen, you can think about, oh, the times when you did that. And, oh, the times when your friend or your boss or your spouse did that one. And you have to laugh. And it's all about cultivating some awareness so that we can start to understand how we can shape our reality to perceive more accurately and to bring forth the best that we have to offer. And now is our previously recorded episode, Thought Traps, Silly Brain Tricks number 1. Hello and welcome, everyone.
And this is episode 74. Holy cow, I'm just realizing next one is episode 75.
Wow, it's funny how they just add up like that, one by one.
They do. It's got to be something. It's got to signify something. We made it to episode 75.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, here we are starting a new season of the podcast. And this season, really, it's come from our coaching experience. And I just want to say a few words about coaching for those of you out there who aren't as familiar with the process of working with a coach. Basically, coaches are support for anyone who wants to achieve a new goal, make a change, either a behavioral change or an emotional change, or a change in their patterns of thinking, who wants to kind of release old patterns and create new ones. And because a lot of our patterns really happen at the unconscious level, quite a bit of coaching is taking what's unconscious and raising it to the surface level, to the conscious level, so it can be evaluated and people can decide, hey, I think this is a good pattern or behavior and I want to keep it, or it's not serving me, it's not serving my goals, or for whatever reason, I want to make a change. And then coaches support people in making those changes and making them stick in whatever area of growth the client wants to change in. And one of the things that we have noticed over time, and this is really very foundational in psychological research and other areas, is really behavior comes from our perceptions, our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions. All of that is what creates our behavior. And we've seen that to be true. There are numerous traps that we fall into in our thinking that largely remain at the unconscious level. And some of them are just easily recognizable, yet we don't always notice them in our day-to-day life. So we thought we'd take a couple episodes and talk about what we call thought traps.
Thought traps. And today we're going to start with cognitive distortions.
Yes.
Or silly brain tricks that mess you up, that trip you up.
These really, we kind of like them because, frankly, we all do them. And we certainly see them a lot in our own lives and the lives of our clients. And you'll probably recognize yourself in them as well.
Yeah, you have to laugh. And so we're going to list a lot of them and talk about them. We just invite you to pick your favorite one because it's the most annoying or the most common, or because it's the one your husband or wife does all the time. And grab onto it and decide what you're going to do about it.
Okay.
Here's a cognitive distortion, Karen: mind reading.
Do.
Yeah, you assume that you know what people think without having sufficient evidence of their thoughts. Like, he thinks I'm a loser.
Oh, yeah. Or they must think I'm lazy and undisciplined because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you just have this assumption that, oh, yeah, I know exactly what they're thinking.
It does happen also at the unconscious level. I think we all do it, and we do it a lot. The thing that I like about mind reading is basically it tells us nothing about what the other person thinks, because we really can't know what the other person is thinking. But it tells us a lot about how we think. So I will assume the other person is thinking what I'm thinking. So, for example, if I think, well, I'm applying for this job, but really I'm too old to get this job, and I don't get the job, I'll probably think, they think I'm too old to get this job. That's why I didn't get it. And really, it's what I think and not what they think.
And we have a way of having the sort of maximum idea about what they're thinking, especially about us. But often, however, it's not true. Sometimes we can be in a conversation and look back on the conversation and feel kind of a vulnerability hangover or something like that. But really, it wasn't so bad. You know, you shared some things and, it was a little uncomfortable, but it went pretty well. And then that's it.
Yeah, really, if we haven't asked the person what they think, it can be risky to make those assumptions. Here's another thought trap for you: catastrophizing. I love this thought trap. And really, catastrophizing is you believe that what has happened or is going to happen will be so awful and unbearable and terrible that you just won't be able to stand it.
Yeah, that's fine. So Karen likes this thought trap because she says, oh, you do this all the time.
You're very good catastrophizer, don't you think?
Well, just because I was trained to foresee problems. So it's a professional skill.
Could be a drawback. So a catastrophizer is going to think things like, it's just going to be terrible if I fail. Or if I make a mistake, then everything is lost and I'll be fired and everybody will hate me.
Or, for example, as Karen pointed out to me, I've been dreading moving this certain family member.
You have. It's true.
Yeah. And I know I'm just going to get stuck on the deposit, and there's going to be all these difficulties closing out the place, and the management's going to be hard to work with. I don't have a great feeling about it. And the truth is, there's really a lot of my energy is kind of going into that catastrophizing. And not only is it unpleasant, but it's a distraction, and it's keeping me from seeing what's possible. And in fact, we were talking with that management company, and they kind of signaled that, no, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be so bad.
Right. And so if you find yourself sort of catastrophizing and then getting through things and saying, oh, well, it really wasn't as bad as I anticipated it would be, that could be a sign that you tend to do this.
Yeah, and catastrophizing, that's classic for your teenager
that
doesn't want to try out for the school play. Oh, people are going to laugh at me. Well, why do you think that? Well, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
And as you remove one objection, well, they come up with another one.
Sure.
Because they just know it's going to be terrible. Here's another cognitive distortion or a silly brain trip: labeling. That's where we assign global negative traits to ourselves and others. So, like, I'm undesirable, or he's a rotten person. Here's one that I think this is a thought trap. So there was this lady, she was only about 50, which is not that old, honey.
I think it's not very old at all. Thank you very much.
But even I could tell she was wearing old lady clothes and horrors, old lady shoes at age 50. And I realized she was just ready to hang it up. She was ready to stay home. And so I'm too old was kind of a comforting label that served her by getting her off the hook. She didn't have to go try and strive and all those things.
That's a very interesting example. It's very interesting. I think we use a lot of labels for people and for ourselves instead of simply describing behavior. And here's an example. We might think, well, that person is disrespectful. And if we took a couple steps back and just described the behavior, we might say, well, we agreed to meet at noon and they arrived at 12:30. And that's the behavior. And there can be a lot of things underneath the behavior and places to go from there. And labeling really puts everything in a box and limits how we're going to respond to situations and to people. So it really can be a distortion and a trap.
Yeah, this is really a classic for big relational disputes. When somebody does something quote unquote wrong, then instead of addressing the behavior, you make a character attack. So if your teenager doesn't mow the lawn, you tell them, you're so lazy.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful at all. Instead, we need to address the behavior and reserve our character judgments.
Here's one distortion I can relate to. It's discounting positives. So this is when a set of positive things is happening and really you think that they're kind of trivial and they don't count. Like, well, that's what my spouse is supposed to do. It doesn't really count when they're nice to me. Or, yeah, I did that thing, but it was really easy. It doesn't matter. It's not that positive. It's not that great. And I can do this because I have a lot of projects that are waiting to be completed. And for example, I might finally complete a project that I've been putting off or haven't been able to get to, but I'm telling myself, well, okay, but I should have done it a lot sooner. And normal people wouldn't have let that go so far. And look at all these other projects that are on my list that I haven't gotten to and I'm putting off. And versus really appreciating and giving validity to the positive thing that I've done or that has happened to me.
There's no celebration. There's no reinforcement of your good deeds.
I really struggle to celebrate positive and accomplishments. And I have had to continually work on that.
I think we, as a family, we're kind of weak on celebration. We're always kind of moving on.
That's true.
Things are always impacting us.
Yeah.
And somehow the big celebrations are kind of ad hoc.
Yeah.
And that's both of us.
Right.
Negative filtering is another funny brain trick, whatever we're calling cognitive distortions this week. So it's a funny thing. And this is when you have the negative experience, well, you focus on that. So the classic is the salesperson, and they're going along and they get a rejection and they keep thinking about all those rejections when it's time to go make their next pitch. So there's an over focus on the negative. And so, oh, well, I had X many sales, but that's nothing. You know, look at all these rejections. Or say you dislike going to social events, or you don't like to hang out after church at the little round tables because you have all these memories of uncomfortable, awkward social conversations. And that's the negative filtering. And you're focusing on those and not remembering, oh, gee, you know, there's a lot of times when it went just fine and you had a great time and you were so appreciative of all that good human contact. But instead, the next time, where are you? Like, oh, I don't want to go do that because I remember those awkward moments. That's negative filtering.
Right, right. And I do want to mention something about the positive and the negative, because this is just how your brain works generally. Is the negative things go in deeper and get more attention from your brain than the positives. So everybody pretty much has to do some work to refocus on the positive so that you actually have an accurate perception of reality, or at least a more accurate perception of reality. So the negatives are going to get internalized and become a filter really easily. And the positives take some work so that they can get internalized and start to affect your approach to some of these situations.
Yeah, and that negative bias, there's another cognitive distortion, very similar, overgeneralizing.
Ah, yes.
So you have a single negative, and all of a sudden you make it into a global pattern. And, well, this generally happens to me. I'm no good at doing new things.
Sure. So I didn't perform how I wanted, and I'm just a failure at it. Or this always happens to me. I find myself saying that. Like being in the slow line of the grocery store. Oh, this always happens to me. Or, it just figures I'm busy and I would get in this line. One time I was in a line and I even turned around and I said, hey guys, I'm just warning you. I always get in the slow line, so you probably don't want to be behind me. And I don't think we always pick up when we're doing that. And really, if I did some kind of statistical analysis, it's most likely I don't get in a slower line anymore than anybody else.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting in your line.
Oh, okay. Well, you're not supposed to emphasize, support my distortion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you won't realize why I'm not in your line then. So overgeneralizing, we can have a negative experience. Like somebody shows up at your church and they're trying it out and they're hiding in the back pew and nobody talks to them. And they leave and they think, man, nobody even tried to intercept me or say hello. Those people, bunch of jerks there.
Sure.
Not going back.
Everybody there is unwelcoming or what have you.
Or, for instance, overgeneralizing. I got some advice when I took my wife camping for the first time. The advice was, you better make sure she enjoys it, because if she doesn't, she'll never go again. That's human behavior.
Yeah.
You do that thing once. If it's a negative experience, it's very easy for us to just wash our hands of it.
So here's a thought trap. It could have a couple different names: dichotomous thinking or the all or nothing thinking. So it's when you view events or people or expectations in all or nothing terms. It was a complete waste of time, that thing I went to. Or it was totally unredeemable as an activity.
Yeah, and so often, even if we didn't get the outcome, even if we didn't get the win, we learned something and we made some kind of progress. So the all or nothing thinking really blocks that.
It really does. Or we have a negative interaction and everybody hates me. Everybody hates me. So all or nothings can really close us down to a lot of opportunities. And really all of these thought traps just close our thinking down and make it very narrow and block us from seeing both opportunities and possibilities, and also reality, which isn't going to be in line with these negative thought patterns.
Yeah, so the thoughts create these negative emotions. The emotions are shutting us down. They don't let us go further because our thoughts have put us at that place where, oh, now we don't want to do the next thing.
Sure. And so our behavior is going to come from that foundation.
And that brings us to the shoulds.
Ooh, the shoulds.
The infamous shoulds. So This is when we interpret events in terms of how things should be rather than focusing on what is.
Or in terms of how we think they should be for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly. An example, I should do well. If I don't, then I'm a failure.
I really think there's kind of an example on the flip side too, which is I shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't have to do XYZ, or I should do XYZ. And a lot of the shoulds, they come from a lot of different places. And very often they're rooted in some kind of arbitrary foundation that we just internalized over time. And this is really an area where, as coaches, we do work on shoulds to bring those to consciousness for people and question them and reevaluate them in light of other criteria besides just, well, I just should, whatever it is.
I should. So here's an example. We could have a wonderful value like, it's really important I work hard every day to provide value to my employer so I can do a good job. And today, I was a little off my game, really. I wasn't as focused as I could be. I wasn't so productive. So I should work late to make it up. And here's this value that's kind of sneaking in there. And the question becomes, well, what is it that you want to do that's consistent with your true values? If you had an off day at work, well, how does that impact your contribution that you're making? Is working late that day what you should do? Or what else could you do to make sure that you're providing that value that's so important to you to fulfill?
Right. And there could be a few expectations in there as well that could be evaluated.
Well, we get into work and belonging and providing, and we're getting down to some really primal sorts of beliefs and drivers, and there's a lot in there. Now, as coaches, when we hear the word should, that's really a trigger for us because we know that there's a disconnect between what you want and your goal. So you're saying you should do X, Y, Z, but what is it you want? And it's this sign of a disconnect. There's a disconnect between your conscious mind, which is like the rider on this big elephant, and the big elephant is your unconscious mind. We talked about this starting in episode 35, this metaphor of the rider and the elephant. And when there's a should, then it's telling us, well, I don't really want this. This is something that my rider, my conscious mind, is telling me I should want. If we're pursuing goals that we don't really want, then our action's not going to be that powerful. It's going to be puny, and it's probably going to peter out, or it's going to cost us a lot. And what a contrast when we can dig around a little bit and start to find reasons and find the truth about why we really want this thing. And then we can really go get it.
Awesome. I'm gonna leave us there, I think, for the episode with these thought traps. And I think I just invite everyone, Curtis, I encouraged you earlier just to consider which one of these jumped out at you or you could relate to. So maybe just take one and keep it in mind this coming week and see if you notice yourself doing any of these unconsciously. I'll just go through them quickly here. Mind reading, assuming you know what other people think, catastrophizing, believing or knowing what's going to happen and it'll be so awful, labeling, assigning negative traits to yourself and others, discounting positives, negative filtering, focusing on the negatives, overgeneralizing, the always or the never, or the all or nothing terms, everyone, complete, nothing. And finally, the shoulds. When that word should pops up for us, that can tell you you're in a thought trap. So pay attention to those. And if you have something fun to share, pop in the Facebook group and share it with us.
Or share it about your spouse. That's fine too.
No, I don't think you should do that.
It'll be fun.
Okay, you can be first, Curtis. I'll share about you. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week.
That concludes our representation of episode 74. We hope you enjoyed it. Visit us at empoweredcatholics.com. See you later. Thank you for being here with us this week. Visit our website at empoweredcatholics.com to learn more about us. And remember, as Pope Francis says, God comes to break open everything that keeps you closed in.